If you've ever walked past a row of small cruisers and thought, cool look, shame about the single cylinder, the Keeway V302C feels like a bit of a plot twist. It keeps the slammed bobber stance, the super low seat, and the weekend-friendly attitude, but adds something you almost never see at this size, a real V-twin with a belt final drive. In 2025, that combination alone makes it an outlier. On paper, it's a compact cruiser. In spirit, it wants to be your first real V-twin, just scaled to city life and A2 entry-level licenses. The question is whether the experience matches the ingredients. Let's set the stage with the current, official picture. The international spec lists a 298cc SOHC liquid-cooled V-twin making 22 kilowatts, about 30 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, and 26.5 newton-meters at 6,500 RPM. It uses a 6-geared gearbox and, crucially, a belt to the rear wheel. The seat is strikingly low at 690 millimeters, about 27.1 in, the fuel tank is 15 liters, and the company quotes a top speed of 129 kilometers per hour. Tires are chunky, 120/80/16 front and 150/80/15 rear, and ABS is standard on 300 millimeter front and 240 millimeter rear discs. The site also quotes a curb weight around 175 kilograms. In short, the brochure reads like a greatest hits mix of approachable numbers and cruiser-authentic details. In the United States, the V302C re-entered the conversation in 2024 with an MSRP of $4,999 and the same headline components: inverted fork, dual shocks, LED lighting, and a tidy, round digital cluster. You're getting a belt, 6 cogs, and that V-twin cadence for roughly the price of some single-cylinder rivals. For a lot of new riders or returning riders who want easygoing style without chain lube on their cuffs, that sticker is the hook. Across the pond, European pricing is typically hovered around €4,790, with UK dealers commonly listing cash prices in the 4.5 to 4.7K neighborhood, depending on OTR fees and promos. The spec is fundamentally the same. Same engine, same brakes, same 690mm saddle, and laid-back geometry. You'll sometimes see slight weight wording differences. UK sites often show an unladen figure near 167 kilograms, while the global page lists 175 kilograms curb. A reminder to read the fine print on how each market measures the bike. Specs and pricing are one thing. Feel is another. What gives the V302C its identity is how that compact V-twin changes the soundtrack and the delivery. Where a small single thumps and a parallel twin hums, the Keeway throb is a little offbeat, a little more characterful, especially in the low to mid-range where most of us live day to day. It's not a rocket, 30 horsepower won't flatten hills, but in urban traffic and on 2-lane backroads, there's enough pull to surf from 3,500 to 7,000 without wringing its neck. The belt helps the vibe along. No lash, no spray, just a smooth, light whir that suits a cruiser you might commute on during the week and polish on Sunday. The US launch coverage called out exactly that pairing, V-twin charm with a silent belt as the heart of the pitch. Ergonomics are where the Keeway leans hard into its bobber brief. The seat is low, really low, and the bars are wide without being AP. Controls are forwardish but not extreme, so new riders can flatfoot and shuffle confidently. That stance plus the long wheelbase gives the bike a planted feel that reads bigger than its capacity. It's the kind of seating position that encourages relaxed speeds and quick detours. Grab a coffee, take the long way home, find an empty stretch, and enjoy the thrum. The dash is simple but clean, a fully digital round unit with a tack ringing the speed readout, plus fuel, gear indicator, clock, and trip data. Enough information without breaking the classic silhouette. US market notes from the launch cycle highlighted exactly these touches, little niceties that make you feel like you're not in budget bike purgatory. Living with it day to day is where that belt drive earns its keep. If you've never owned a belt bike, think quieter than chain, cleaner than chain, and almost no routine fuss. You still inspect and tension is specified, but there's no oily fling on your fender after a wet commute. For riders who don't love wrenching or who park indoors near things they'd rather not stain, the cleanliness matters. Add the 15-liter tank, and you've got a little V-twin that sips enough to make real range out of a weekend. The numbers on paper won't sock anyone, but the sum of the parts is very livable. Value, of course, depends on your market. In the States, $4,999 for a V-twin, ABS, and belt drive lands as a solid proposition in the small cruiser aisle. In Europe, 4,790 euros, or roughly mid-4K OTR, is competitive if you specifically want the V-twin vibe and the bobber look. You can absolutely find more displacement for more money, and you can find cheaper singles if price is the only metric. But you won't find many bikes that tick this particular combination of engine layout, stance, and low-maintenance final drive at this size. That uniqueness is a big part of why the V302C turns heads on a test ride. Who actually thrives on this platform? New riders and shorter riders will appreciate the 690mm perch and the unflappable balance at a crawl. City commuters get drama-free fueling, a narrow waist for filtering, and a soundtrack that makes errands feel less like errands. If you're a style-first buyer who wants a bike that looks custom out of the crate, the Keeway nails the visual brief in darker colors. It photographs a class above its price. And if you've always wanted to own a V-twin but don't need or want a 500+cc machine, this is an approachable way into the sound and rhythm without the size and weight tax. There is a flip side. The slammed stance and short rear travel, just 46mm, mean the V302C is not a magic carpet on broken pavement. It's fine on decent roads, even pleasantly composed, but sharp-edged potholes and speed humps can come through more than they would on a taller standard or a longer travel cruiser. If your daily loop is filled with patched tarmac, you'll want to set rear preload correctly, run appropriate tire pressures, and ideally try a long test ride over your worst bits of road. The geometry that makes the Keeway look so good from the curb is the same geometry that grants less suspension stroke to iron out the truly ugly stuff. The feature set is intentionally simple. You won't find ride modes or traction control or smartphone UIs here. The charm is that it's straightforward. ABS is the safety net that matters the most, the digital dash gives you the info you need, and the lighting keeps you conspicuous. The simplicity won't impress gadget hunters, but for a first bike or a second bike that lives in the city, that can be a relief. And aesthetically, the bike leans into its minimalism. Bobbed fenders, dark finishes, and compact bodywork mean there's not a lot to clutter or date the design. What about the numbers that tend to sway decisions? From the factory, the V302C ships with those fat 16-15-inch tires and a radial mount front caliper on a 300mm rotor, which gives braking feel that punches above expectation for the class. The seat height and low center of gravity work together to keep confidence high in parking lots and tight alleys. And while the weight figures vary by how your local importer defines them, plan for a mid-160s to mid-170s kilos experience with fluids, light enough to be friendly, heavy enough to feel planted. All told, it's a bike you can swing a leg over and be comfortable with in 15 minutes. The honest limiter is sustained speed and distance. A small V-twin can hold 70 to 75 miles per hour when you need it, but without wind protection, you will feel it in your neck and shoulders after a while, and the bike will feel more alert than a 500 or 650 twin would at the same pace. That's not a flaw so much as a design choice. The Keeway is built to be easy, stylish, and friendly in the places where most of us actually ride. Treat it like a nimble companion rather than a freight train, and it rewards you with a relaxed, characterful rhythm. So, should you buy one? If your heart says V-twin bobber, but your commute, budget, or license says keep it sensible, the V302C threads the needle unusually well. It's genuinely distinctive in the 300 class, not just another small cruiser with borrowed swagger. It's easier to live with than a chain drive equivalent, lower than most alternatives, and better looking in person than the spec sheet suggests. It's also humble about what it is, a simple, handsome, compact cruiser that makes everyday miles feel special without demanding much in return. On the other hand, if your riding reality is rough roads all day or long highway slogs, or if you crave a fuller feature list, you're outside the V302C sweet spot. In those cases, step up in displacement or look at mid-size cruisers that trade weight and price for longer legs. As of now, the V302C remains one of the most individual choices in the small cruiser world, a compact V-twin with a belt and a stance that doesn't whisper beginner bike, even if it is beginner friendly. If that combination ticks your boxes, you owe yourself a test ride, ideally on the exact roads you'll ride most. Chances are you'll step off grinning and thinking less about numbers and more about how it made you feel. And that, more than anything on a spec sheet, is the point.